At the four, at the stone, was hope. On the knees, like always, to the mother, the same question, like always. Who was Jojo? Quiet, the mother, like always, would ponder how to respond. Who is Jojo? Always trying to understand, and yet knowing the question, but how to answer. Who is she? Have you held that one in your arms? Oblivion, like always, would hiss like a snake. No, I have not held that one. I don't dare. At the one was Hope, who ran so fast. Ran like what? A second hand? A minute hand. At the two was called an hour hand. The hour hand was Oblivion. At the three was Balance, like the center of a clock. Four was known as what exactly? The last moment of a life. Or, if you must know, goodbye. Phi was never used. It was not. To say Phi was to lie under the grace of God. Dead, in a sense. It was not used. The closest Hope could say was 4 to 1. The end of the self. She'd always take the fifth. But to mention Jojo, she knew Jojo. Oh, yes, she did. She didn't call her the Derby Girl. She knew Jojo as, well, Cookie, in a sense. The Oreo. She'd call her that. The Oreo at, well, the deli. The deli was what exactly? A break room? A break room. I've gone on breaks, what she said. Those things in the knees was called hope. I've taken a break. A break? How can you take a break? I just did. I went upstairs. What is upstairs? Oblivion would ponder the question. Upstairs? There is no such thing as upstairs. Hope, like always, could do miraculous things. She could. If she wished it, there was upstairs. But upstairs was the three, in a sense. The three was Delphi, wasn't it? No, it is not called Delphi. Delphi was the belly button of the ancient world. So, understanding three was the center. I don't call it that, is what she said. Hope, like always, would always ponder mysteries to the mother, trying to understand three. Three? It was never used, but understanding three was balance. Oh, yes, on occasions she was taken to the three. On occasions, anarchy. Not called the Derby Girl, not even called Jojo. Oh, yes, she would appear with her entourage, the Fates, in a sense. The wise men called Magi would accompany those things and come in to the four. At the four, the Magi, with their what? Goddess, in a sense, would come into the four. And just like that, scoop up Oblivion at the two. And, oh yes, at the four, Hope. And take them to the three. And the three was just that, a scale. On one side, it would put, well, Oblivion on that side. On the other side, Hope, on the balance on the scale. The small thing of the four. Not that entirely, null in a sense. It would come right into the scale, and just like that, search and try to understand. At the far end, she knew something, but somehow Oblivion would change itself to look like Hope in a sense. After all, she was known as hopeless. Something that did not understand, well, hope. No hope. At the stone, when Hope would look at the stone, It always said no hope. On the other side, on Oblivion's side, she always said the same. There is always hope. At the scale, at the three in a sense, a clock, or a scale, or what? Sands of time in a sense. But still, trying to understand the conception of time was just that. The Magi, what? The fates in a sense. Trying to understand the small smidgen called, well, Jojo. And understanding the entourage, she always smiled. She placed back a smidgen of hope and a smidgen of no hope on the scales. Trying to understand it, always the Magi, the scientists in a sense, with calculations, mathematics, the library at the three. This place was also known as a three, but still for the Magi, known as the fates, calculations, always trying to determine which of these things were they looking for. The small smidgen, the priestess in a sense, was known as Jojo, trying to understand exactly what they were looking for. Calculations, but still these two things were twins. At the left was Oblivion, but who looked like Hope in a sense. At the far right was Hope, who looked like no hope in a sense. They were twins. Quantum mechanics again. Always trying to understand a quantum entanglement. But of what exactly? What was it? Trying to understand it. Always Oblivion would not move, quiet like always. She would not speak. On the far end, the right end, the smirk again, was Hope, who always smiled. A toothless smile, in a sense. She would smile. Right away, the entourage, oh yes, the fates, the Magi would go running to understand this thing. Again, measuring the head, the forehead, the butt was always tight, and still understanding what hope was a mystery. They had no conception of hope. And then, like always running as fast as she would say the same thing, cookie, in a sense. Saying the word cookie was just that. And still then, no way to understand it. She also would smirk. Hope would, on the far right of the scale, would say the word, well, cookie as well. And just like that, no conclusion, always it would vanish. Oblivion back to the two in a sense, beyond a fog wall. And then hope, like always, right back to the sneeze again, trying to explain, and again with a smirk on her face, understanding what the break room was. And then, like always, with a smirk on her face, the same question, who was Jojo? And then, like always, quiet, anger, frustrations. This happened again, hasn't it? What? That place. What? She wouldn't call it the three. She knew it as what? The center of a clock. Somehow, she'd been taken back to the three in a sense. Put on a scale, tried to find out exactly what it was, but still no answer. And like always, right back to this place. Beyond a fog wall, the two. A dead woman in the arms of Oblivion, smiling in a sense, but this was Hope in her arms, with a toothless grin. See, I can find you. What? What are you doing here? She would push her right back to the life again on the other side, and then trying to understand the question again. She could do it. She was like that, like a jackrabbit who could jump through dimensions in a sense, through a portal in a sense. And still smirking, she would ask the same question. Who is Jojo? And still, like always, with fascinations, Oblivion at the two. I don't know who she is. I don't know what she is. All she knew was simply this. Do not speak when that thing called anarchy comes into the room. Simply say nothing. Quiet. And like always, staying on his knees was Hope. Still fascinations. And then she would say something, like always, just to make things more fun. The white rose. What is the white rose? Quiet. That one with a hiss again. Oblivion of the two knew the rose. She knew it well. What is the rose? Do we serve the rose? Do we? Understanding the white rose was just disgust. Something to do with life, in a sense, the stench of it. And then, like always, understanding the rose, the digger, with some approach to talk to his own child, called hope, in a sense. Understanding that has always been a mystery. We serve the rose, is what he said. And just like that, out she would come, the other thing, the penguin, in a sense. Oh, yes, the penguin called Mercy, who would come running, the child of Ash, the Jewish child, would come running right just like that and throw her arms right into Hope. Quietly she would hiss, and always the mother would hiss. She could not stand the Ash, and yet she was also part of what's known as the Firebird, in a sense. Always trying to understand the madness of family, in a sense. The smidgen of Ash would kiss the face of Hope. You ask too many questions. You want to know who Jojo is? I know who she is. And quietly, Hope, not knowing what you would say, and quietly she would whisper in the ear of Hope, she is you. Playing games. What? You are Hope, but in truth, she is you. She is you as an adult. You passed long ago, Hope. Did you not know that? Long ago, when you came this way as a small child, you were trying to understand death, in a sense. And when you understood death, the problem was this: you couldn't accept it, your own demise. So, you did one thing cruel. You started this place. This place is called 4. Because you cannot understand your own death, now can you? You can't. And oblivion is also you, in a sense. So yes, beyond that fog wall, just beyond the fog wall, is something more. And that also is Jojo. She won't say it. She can't accept her end. She cannot accept what this place is. And the digger, the man with no head, is her father. Do you know that? And always she would kiss the face and tell Hope the same thing. You ask stupid questions, foolish questions. I always understand your question, but the problem is, if you understood the answer, quietly the child of Ash would simply smirk at Hope. If I told you the answer, you would not exist. And that is the problem which she cannot say. Beyond the fog wall was no hope, oblivion, with a hiss. You speak too much, Smidgen. I shall take you back. And yet, like always, the Smidgen called what? Mercy, like always, would hiss back. You cannot do anything. You cannot do anything to me as long as I have hope. That's what he said. But then understanding the rose itself, again, the digger would always try to approach hope. We serve the white rose. Its stench is called life, and the misery of it is like a weed. In this place, this graveyard, in a sense, these flowers of stone, he would grieve, like always, trying to say the same thing from his heart. A man with no head. Oh, yes, a headless cadaver. A bloat of a man, a raisin in the sun with a shovel. Oh, yes, rot in a sense. He would always say the same thing to Hope. I am not your father. I don't know what that thing in your arm says. I am no one's father. And yet he was the father of the earth. He was known as Tierra. Sand is what he was. He was the father called Father Time, in a sense. And then the Smidgen, oh yes, the Ash. Was she also Jojo? But again, I cannot tell you that. I cannot, that's what she said to Hope. And like always, at the 2, oblivion. Always with a smirk on the face, understanding what the darkness was in the box. Always she would go right down to the box, in a sense. Mercy would jump right into the hole, right down the dragon's throat. She would go right down to the box and push out Oblivion. And Oblivion would come out, well, as Hope again. Always trying to understand what this was. The rose itself was life. It was also death. It was always the same thing. They served it. They did not understand it. They only know a thing called faith, in a sense. Or was it fate they served? Always understanding what it was just that. No answers. Like always, trying to understand what Jojo was. Jojo was, well, the rose, in a sense. The rose was just that. Not understanding anything. They always seemed to forget. Always a question, and a question with an answer, and then, like always, to forget. Always as if something was saying the word cookie. Trying to do what? Recalculate what this was. Some tragedy in some life, in a sense. Trying to understand what? The father? And then, like always, understanding what the answer was. It was always the same thing. Something from afar would say the word cookie again. And then what? Reset the whole thing again. And then quiet. Like always, summations. Understanding what the thing was saying on the ground. I went on break. What? I went on break upstairs. Upstairs, yes. I went upstairs and I met a fascinating person. What person? There is no upstairs. Yes, I did. I went upstairs, I took a break. And I met an Oriole. An Oriole, yes. A little small child smelling, well, cookies. That's what she said. Fascinations again. Not understanding what she meant. Oblivion. Hissed again. And then the smidgen again appeared. Oh yes, Mercy. The penguin. Why was she called a penguin? For a cruel thing. The things that passed, like always, when they died, they were black. But the eyes rolled back to the heads would pop. And somehow whites. And the whites and the ash, she called it always. Oblivion. She called it, well, a penguin in a sense. The ash would jump right back in the arms. Mercy would kiss the face of Hope again. You cannot stay here. You cannot. You ask too many questions. You must run. What? You must run. You cannot stay here. You know that. You cannot stay here, Hope. You must run. Always to understand what this was a game of 4. And yet we set it back over and over and over again. Something cruel was playing games, always known, well, as a game of 4.